Hello and welcome to this special episode of the Buttcast, episode 16. Today's special guest is Kate.
Hello, I'm Kate.
This episode's going to be different from usual. It's going to be a lot more structured than more the freeform conversations that I usually have with my guests, because Kate is not just a guest. She is also my lovely girlfriend.
I'm the first girl on your
You're
podcast.
also the first female guest. That's true. I suppose that's not surprising that you are the first female guest.
This makes me happy.
And this, to make it easier for her, since she is not as invested in the Yu-Gi-Oh community, I have made this a lot more structured than usual. If you aren't already looking, the thing that I have up is not the normal just thumbnail. This is an actual PowerPoint. So if you aren't watching, please do watch, including on Spotify. There is an actual video. And so you can keep up with what we're talking about. We're going to have a whole section talking about card art, so it's pretty important. But even if not, even if you can't watch, I'll try to visually describe what's going on so you have an idea of what's going on. So let's go ahead and jump right into it.
I also want to say that this is a special episode because we have the sickness.
Yes, we both have COVID.
So it's New Year's Eve and we can't do anything.
Yeah, it's New Year's Eve and we both have COVID. So this is my idea of celebrating the coming of the new year. Anyway, your Yu-Gi-Oh history
Is non-existent.
is non-existent. You watched the show?
Yeah, I watched the TV show. I didn't even really watch the TV show because we didn't have Dish.
Mm-hmm.
So I saw a little bit of it in my grandparents' house, I think.
But as shown on screen, there's a product in the bottom corner. Your older brother owned this?
Yeah, I think my brother watched Yu-Gi-Oh! A little bit. Well, he definitely knew more about what was going on than I did. And I don't know where he got it. It was probably birthday or Christmas, or we could have got it at a garage sale or something. But there's a towel with, is it Yugi on it?
That's the Pharaoh, so
The Pharaoh.
Yami Yugi,
Yami Yugi.
I think.
And a little hand towel that says Yu-Gi-Oh! That's been in my house for probably more than 15 years at this point.
Yeah.
And I forgot about it until a couple days ago, and I found it.
In remarkably good condition, making it obvious that they have never been used.
No, we didn't use those ones.
Uh-huh. And then, what did you think of it with this very limited information you had at the beginning?
The towel? It was
No.
scratchy.
Yu-Gi-Oh! In general, in the beginning, that very limited amount of information. Like when you caught glimpses of the show, were you like, oh, that's cool, or were you like, that's a weird...
The only thing I remember about the show was I think there was some sort of... Actually, I think there was a movie? And Joey had a sister or something, and she was in trouble, and that's literally all I remember about the show. I think I knew it was a card game like Pokemon, though.
Mm-hmm.
But I thought Pokemon was better, not as a game, but as a TV show.
I think that's fair. But when was the first time you saw an actual physical card? Do you know?
Probably when we started dating.
Oh, well.
I don't think I saw a physical card till then.
Okay, we'll get
Unless
to that.
you count them animating the cards in the show.
Well, we'll get to that later. Anyway, speaking of us started dating, when we started dating, Speed Duel. I think the first genuine attempt I tried to get you into the game was using Speed Duel decks.
Well, not the very first time. The very first time you were just showing me all the cards you had. And I'm like, wow, this guy has a lot of cards.
Yeah.
And, I think you could tell that, I was a little overwhelmed. A lot.
Yeah. And so I tried to get something a little simpler by moving to Speed Duel.
I think you started with Speed Duel because you didn't know which of your decks you should give me that was best for me to figure out as a beginner.
Mm-hmm. How was Speed Duel?
I liked it better.
You liked it better than trying the actual card game, yeah?
Yeah, I liked it better than the actual card game.
The full version?
Well, I don't even think you thought of Speed Duel and you're like, oh yeah, wait, I should get her to do that. We just had walked to your local card shop and you saw them and you're like, oh hey, that's a good idea. Let's get those.
I had it that moment.
I think that's what happened.
Impulse buy.
I think so.
I still have the cards.
Yeah, I know.
What kind of made Speed Duel eventually not work out is you are a very competitive person.
Yeah.
And you would lose.
I'm a sore loser, yeah.
Yeah. So it was inevitable that you would not want to play anymore. I'd have to nerf myself so much.
Well, it was also, we had only 3 Speed Duel decks.
Yeah.
And one you said sucked. So we were only playing with 2 decks. Consistently, you said, this is the good one, this is the bad one. Mm-hmm. So I'm like, well, I want the good one, obviously.
Yeah.
So you took the bad one. It got boring.
That's fair.
It got boring when I had the good deck and I kept losing.
What?
And you had the bad deck. And,
one of them was so bad that I would lose with it every time.
And that was, we didn't even play with
exactly. We almost never played with that one. I only used that one if I wanted to give you wins.
I think I won a couple times with.
Oh yeah, you did.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it never happened. It just didn't happen frequently enough for you to retain interest.
But I like it better because there's way less cards.
There's a lot less stuff to read.
Yeah.
There's a lot less going on.
Yeah, I didn't like reading all the effects, and I just wanted big boy smash. I didn't want to read all the words.
You very much liked having the big monsters, and just being able to attack into the other guys.
But you taught me how to do combos.
Yeah.
You taught me how to get to the card I needed to get, and that was it.
Yeah, for Speed Duel players, specifically it was the Dragon deck, and I was telling her, so the whole point of this skill card is that if you have either of these 2 cards, you can get the other one. If you have Lord of D, you get the flute. If you have the flute, you can get Lord of D, and then you can summon all the big dragons out of your hand. And that was a combo for you.
Exactly.
So that's the level we're talking about here.
Is I can only juggle 3 cards in my head at a time.
That's 2.
No, that's Lord of D and Flute Man and Blue Eyes.
Blue Eye, It didn't have to specifically. You know what? You're right. It's even more than 3 cards because it's however many other dragons you have.
There was the other one. I don't remember.
I know that we would make up names for them that were easier for you to remember. I think one of them was Brian.
Brian.
Yeah.
I don't remember what Brian looked like. I'm sure if you pulled him out,
I think it was his name. I think it's actually Tyrant Dragon. Yes. Anyway, moving on. Yu-Gi-Oh! History. Here's a big one.
You spelt followed wrong.
That's too bad.
You really should have let me do the PowerPoint.
No, there's important things. Anyway.
I need everyone to know that I have like a degree in making PowerPoints, and he's the one that made this today.
I made this. I'm so proud of the terrible PowerPoint I made. And now you, in real time, get to figure out just how bad it is. This is just the first.
Should have let me proofread it.
This is just the first error of, I'm sure there will be many errors and imperfections that you will notice and be mad about. Anyway, in episode 4, I told the story of how you got into Duel Links and the events that ensued. But you quickly thereafter told me about how wrong I was telling that story.
Yes. It was wrong.
I think that we have both kind of refrained from you overly explaining exactly what was wrong with the story so that you could tell me now on the podcast.
No, I told you.
Well, what was the most...
I gave you my peace of mind.
What was the egregious stuff that I got wrong?
Well, I just have to start at the beginning of the story. I'm not gonna say what you got wrong. I'm just gonna tell my side.
Okay.
Because you got all of it wrong.
Okay. Please, from the beginning.
Okay, so I was in Las Vegas. I guess that's slightly related to the story. Also, I saw a gambling machine that said Konami, and I was very excited because I was like, "Look, that's the Yu-Gi-Oh guys!" And you're like, yes, babe. They make a lot of games."
Yeah.
Anyway, saw that in Vegas. So I was coming home from Vegas. I was sitting in the airport, and I was really, really bored. And I don't know why I had decided to play Duel Links, because I had remarked before how, like, wow, Yu-Gi-Oh would be so much easier if there was an app for it. And you're like, there is, it just sucks, and I hate it.
Uh-huh.
So, and you had told me you were never going to play Duel Links. You never intended to play Duel Links.
Sounds like me, yeah.
So I'm like, you know what? This is a good opportunity for me to learn how to do this, and I'm really bored.
Yeah.
So I downloaded Duel Links in the Las Vegas airport, and I started playing.
Yeah.
And I very quickly hit a block where I did not know what I was doing. Mm-hmm. So I texted you, and I said, "Hey, what's this?" I can't remember what I asked. I think I asked, "Can I do this if I do this?" And you're like, "Why are you asking me Yu-Gi-Oh questions?" Uh-huh. I said, "Well, I downloaded that game you said you were never going to play."
Mm-hmm.
Well, guess what? He immediately downloads the game he said he was never going to play. He tried to spin this story as I had been playing for a few days longer than him. False. I had like an hour head start on him. Then he downloaded it. Uh-huh. So I continued playing for a little bit, but then I had to board my plane, so I put my phone away. Mm-hmm. But he keeps playing Duel Links. And then I get on the airplane, I play a little bit, but then I have to put my phone in airplane mode, so I turn it off.
Yep.
And he keeps playing Duel Links. So by the time I get off the airport, he's been playing for like 4 hours straight, and I'm already behind. And it never stopped. And so he's like, "Oh, I'm already on this level, and I unlocked this." I'm like, "Well, now I gotta hurry up and get to that level." And it just got really old really fast.
Yeah.
I tried so hard. But also at that time, I was working, and you weren't.
I definitely had a lot more free time than you.
You had a lot more free time than me, so I would put the phone down, and you never did. So we went from being the same, starting at the same time, to you blowing past me.
Yeah. Not
just in terms of skill. Mostly just you put all of your free time into it. Mm-hmm. Which made me really mad, because you said you were never going to play the game in the first place.
Yeah.
And then every time you talk about it, you're like, "I hate this. This sucks." You're like, "I hate Duel Links so much." And eventually he got to the part where you unlock the button that just lets you play
auto duel?
Yeah, auto duel.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, well, I want to get to that point. And as soon as I got to that point, which took me, a couple of days after you did it, I never actually dueled again. I just hit auto duel over and over again to try to grind to get to where you were. 'Cause I'm more competitive than I want to admit that I am.
Yeah.
And so he's so many levels above me, and I wasn't even learning how to play anymore. And then he started doing the online competitions. What are they called?
PvP. I started playing PvP.
I didn't do PvP because I didn't know what I was doing.
Yeah.
Because I hadn't practiced, because I just hit auto duel over and over again.
Mm-hmm.
So you started doing PvP and climbing the ranks, and then you'd be like, "Oh, let's play together." So we play together, and you would just total me.
Yeah.
You'd just destroy me. And then I needed help deck building.
Yep.
But that's like your expertise. You love deck building.
I do.
So you built me a deck. And then you still trashed me over and over again. And every time we were together, you're like, let's play. And I'm like, you know what? I don't want to play anymore.
Yeah.
And I think eventually I just didn't play it for so long. And then every time you don't play for a long time and you log in, it's got a massive update.
Yeah.
And it takes like 10 minutes just to get into the app.
Mm-hmm.
And so I just stopped playing even more, and eventually I just deleted the app. Because I realized I hadn't played it for like 6 months.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, now neither of us have it, so
now neither of us have Duel Links.
We can put this saga behind us.
No, I'm gonna hold on to this
forever.
Forever. Yeah.
Yeah, I feel bad in hindsight. At the time, I was like, "Oh wow, she is interested and wants to do it. Well, I need to be there to help guide her along this path."
No, that was not what I wanted at all.
That is not. I think that this has happened several times. We've had this issue where I feel like, oh, she wants to do this thing with me. I have to get ahead so I can guide her along the way. And you get mad because, no, you wanted to explore it for yourself.
Or do it together.
Yeah. So, that happened. Thank you for correcting me. That is my fault.
I'm not saying you got the story completely wrong. I'm just saying, even though I did say that.
Some key details I missed.
Because I feel like you didn't get the essence across.
I'm not sure how much
why I was upset.
I'm not sure how much I actually remembered. Like, I didn't remember how long you'd been playing before I started playing. Yeah. I didn't realize it was hours.
Yeah.
Before.
I played for like 45 minutes before I got stuck.
Uh-huh. It happens.
Mm-hmm.
I had a friend who is not into Yu-Gi-Oh! Nowadays, I tell everyone that isn't that interested just to play Master Duel, because you can get through it without help, for the most part, the solo stuff. And he did, and then he eventually sent me a similar question of, what happens if this, that, and the other thing in Yu-Gi-Oh? And I'm like, oh, I didn't know you were playing through blah, blah, blah. This is what happens. And he's like, okay. And then he didn't ask me any more questions.
Oh, did you decide to go get ahead and lead him through it?
Well, I am already well ahead in Master Duel.
Mm-hmm.
So that's not really the same situation. But it's fun when people I know that aren't into Yu-Gi-Oh! Ask me a Yu-Gi-Oh! Question. That's a bit of an aside, but...
Yeah, I think I don't want to say trauma. My trauma with Duel Links has led me to not want to try Master Duel.
Yeah.
Because right when it came out, you're like, well, now's the best time to get into it. Because everyone's getting into it at the same time, and nobody's ahead or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Or some other reason. But, I was busy with life at that moment. And now I'm not, but...
I don't know what the next slide is, but just to give you the pitch for Master Duel a different way. Master Duel is the reason why I have deleted Duel Links, and why I always talked about how much I hated Duel Links, is that it is very, very predatory. Right?
I thought you just didn't like that other people were spending money.
Well, that's why it's so expensive.
Yeah.
If you want to do well on the ladder, which as a competitive person, not as much against people I know, but in that sort of sense, I want to do well on the ladder. It's really annoying because you have to spend so much time grinding to get the same results as someone who's willing to spend money. And even if you are going to spend money, it's a lot of money. It's very expensive to play Duel Links.
Yeah, I don't know what the next slide is, but this does segue into why I just don't like Yu-Gi-Oh!
That's not for a little while. We'll get to that.
I like money.
That's true. But Master Duel, the solo content and stuff, if you're willing to kind of pick your battles with what decks to build, you can do it all free very easily. And I don't mean like in Duel Links, you could get enough to make like the Blue Eyes deck that's not quite good. that's like okay for that level. But no, I mean like full competitive level decks right out of the box.
Mhm.
Without having to spend any money. You just play through the tutorial, you play through some solo mode stuff. Never have to interact with another person. And you'll get enough resources that if you spend it correctly, you will be able to build whatever deck you want. And you'll probably be able to build 2 or 3 just going through that content. And it's, again, that is top level competitive decks. There would be no differentiation between what I would be able to get and what you would be able to get based off time in. I just have more decks, but the quality would be the same. So that's one good thing. Whereas with Duel Links, I had just a better version of the same deck you had.
Yeah.
Straight up. And that's just because of the amount of time I sunk into it.
Mm-hmm.
That's not really as much of a problem in Master Duel. If you go into it, you can get the resources to get the best version of that deck within a day.
Yeah.
Of playing it. And not have to pay any money or interact with other people. So that's the little pitch. Obviously.
I also think, now I'm thinking back to it, you talked about how much time you sunk into it. I think you used to taunt me too. You like send me screenshots and be like, look, I made it to this. I don't think it was meant as taunting, more as like a, look where I got. But then I'd be like, dang it, I'm so far behind.
Yeah, I should have realized the sort of competitive you are and cooled my jets a bit.
That was at least 2 years ago, though, wasn't it?
It was a long time ago.
That was half of our relationship.
Mm-hmm. That was it feels like forever ago. Anyway, that's Duel Links. There we go. It
takes you a while to realize things sometimes.
Sometimes, yeah. I can be a little bit of a dunce. By that I mean a lot. I can be a very big dunce.
But now you know I'm competitive. Enough that I won't play games if I'm afraid I'll lose.
Yeah. Anyway, now for the thing you've been waiting for.
Oh yes, word of the week. Now, this is specifically Yu-Gi-Oh! Words that I hate.
The specific word?
Yes.
By your request, as I have written here. Errata.
I hate that word so much. I had never heard this word used in real life until you said that, and I said, what?
Well,
and you're like, errata. Like, that's not a real word. You're like, yes, it is.
To be fair, it is a real word.
Okay, but nobody uses it except Yu-Gi-Oh! Players.
So,
and the as you're about to tell us, the dictionary definition and the Yu-Gi-Oh! Definition aren't even exactly the same.
They're not exactly the same. So, we have here the Yu-Gi-Oh! Fandom.com errata is changes to any part of the text of a card other than card number that occur between reprints. Whereas the Google definition is an error in printing or writing, a list of corrections errors appended to a book or published in a subsequent issue of a journal. So, an actual errata in like writing is an error. And I think that's what it started as in Yu-Gi-Oh! As well, is they were some mistranslation or something. They would errata it. They would just correct it. But then they started using it for effects that were too powerful. They would errata it. They would fix it.
Yeah.
Except now there is not something that is an explicitly a mistake.
How often do they errata?
Not often. They
just put them on the ban list.
There was a time period where they just went ham with it. They errata like 20 cards or something. Like over the course of a few years. Mm-hmm. And that's it. They're like a very small amount in the beginning. Every now and again, we do have it used like the Google definition. There was a card, I think it was a Altergeist card. People in the comments sound off. There was an Altergeist card that was just printed with the wrong text. It was just wrong.
Oh.
And then they reprinted it with the correct text. And I think it's technically still an errata, even by Yu-Gi-Oh! Definitions. Which was literally they just fixed something that was wrong with the card.
A real errata.
Yeah, a real errata. But yeah, there was this time period where a bunch of cards that were on the ban list they decided, great idea. Let's just change all these card texts.
Yeah.
And re-release them and take them off the ban list, which had mixed results. But a lot of cards, we use the word errata, but it's not quite the same. Like, a card we'll get to later, Sangan, he has a lot of the cards he's a very early Yu-Gi-Oh card, right? He's been around for a very long time. One of the first Yu-Gi-Oh cards. Give or take. And his effect is when he's destroyed, you add a monster with 1500 or less attack from your deck to your hand, right?
Okay.
But over the decades, every time he gets a reprint, his text would be changed a little bit.
Okay.
Because before, it was not very clear what he did, so they just changed it to make it more clear.
Uh-huh.
And then they'd update it to be problem-solving card text when they made a fixed formatting for how all effects are written.
Uh-huh.
So they changed it there, which kind of changed how it actually worked a little bit. And then they changed it so you couldn't activate the effect of the monster you grabbed. But that's kind of what it was always intended to be. Because in old school Yu-Gi-Oh, the card you grabbed wouldn't be useful because you couldn't normal summon it. You would probably normal summon Sangan. And Sangan, when it died, almost certainly it'd be your opponent's turn.
Uh-huh.
Obviously, you don't get to use the card again until your turn, right?
Okay.
So
I'm totally following everything.
The changes to its effect were to make it work the way it was always intended to work.
Okay. They just got better at writing down what they wanted it to mean.
They knew what they wanted it to do, but
They just had to keep revising
they had
it.
to keep revising it till they did exactly what they wanted it to do.
Yeah.
As the game changed and all these other things changed. But those were erratas, because it did change functionally how it worked in the game. Because, although there are some exceptions, cards don't work how they were intended to work. They work how they are written to work. So even if they made a mistake, genuinely made a mistake, that's how the card works until they release an errata. And I think, and for a lot of those older cards, that was really common, is that they had a way they were intended to work. And they just kept getting errata closer and closer to how they were originally intended to work.
Is it that people would use it in unintended ways, or that it just wouldn't work the way it was supposed to?
I think a bit of both.
Okay.
Now, there's some weird exceptions to this. There's a card called Last Turn. That is a very weird card. It has a lot of weird rulings around it. And a lot of the rulings are basically summed up as that's how it was supposed to work.
Oh.
Like, there's no actual reason why it works the way it does. It's genuinely just Konami said so. Like, it's not written on the card that it does this specific thing. That's how they wanted it to work. So that's weird niche scenario. But that card's been banned for so long, they're not going to bother updating the text.
Oh.
Right? Whereas Sangan, they reprint Sangan today. It's in structure decks all the time. So that's why they have to keep updating the text until it's perfect.
Yeah. Do you know why I chose this word as word of the week? Because I was listening to the podcast and I heard you say it, or somebody said it, and I was just filled with rage. I was like, oh yeah, that word. I had erased that word from my memory, but now I remember that I hate it.
I think that's a good segue to the next slide if I remember what it is. Oh no, never mind. What do you know? I want you to summarize the game and mention anything I have told you recently. Feel free to be wrong, since this section is about how little you know despite dating a Yu-Gi-Oh podcaster.
Okay. No, I'm not going to tell you what I know recently. I'm just going to have to dig through my mind.
Okay.
I'm going to have to go back 5 years to try to remember. Okay. Yu-Gi-Oh! Card game. Was the show made to advertise the card game, or did the card game exist after the show?
I don't remember, but they are meant to go together.
Okay. So, there's a show. Now it's a card game. There is cards. I'm doing so well.
Uh-huh.
No, okay, so there's monsters.
Yeah.
And then there's trap cards.
Mhm.
And there's spell cards.
Yeah.
And you got your playing mat, and it's got spell zones. And the top row is for the monsters, and the bottom row is for spells and traps.
Yeah.
What's the little side ones? No, those are pendulums, and I hate those.
That's, yeah. You can
Is there a
ignore that.
special spell zone?
How do you... Special spell? Oh, yes, there is.
Okay.
I know what you're thinking of. Do you know where it is?
I just remember, I think I'm having flashbacks back to Speed Duel, and you're like, oh, this is this, but we don't use that. Ignore it. Basically, all those little extra zones, you're like, ignore that. You don't need it.
Well, in Speed Duel, it's 3 instead of 5.
Yeah.
So you just kind of ignored the 2 extra monster zones and 2 extra spell trap
Which
zones.
is what I liked about Speed Duel, is there's so many less cards to have to memorize what they do.
Yeah.
Which is,
The decks are 30 cards instead of 40.
yeah, I was about to say that. I was like, something 40.
Mhm.
Oh, and then I hate the graveyard. You're like, oh, it's the graveyard. That's the cards that died. But then there's banished cards, the cards that really died.
They're dead twice.
The for real dead cards. The graveyard's fake dead cards. And then the extra deck, don't get me started on the extra deck. Why is there an extra deck? Anyway. Let's see.
Are there any specific archetypes or themes you remember?
I struggle on a good day to remember what archetypes means.
Themes.
Um,
Sequence of cards intended to work together.
you tell me all the time about, wait, you have Shadal? Is that an archetype?
That's an archetype.
Magispector is an
Mhm.
archetype.
Those are both archetypes.
Lyrilusk.
Mhm.
Tier elements.
Yeah.
I couldn't name a single card in these archetypes. I just remember these words.
Do you remember anything about them or just the
Nope.
names? Just the names, okay.
There's... No, that's not right. I remember types of cards.
Like,
Winged beasts.
oh, okay, yeah. Actual monster types.
Yeah! Fiend.
Mhm.
Zombie? Okay.
That's one of them. Here's one. What are...
Dragon.
There you go.
Dragon.
What are the Lyrilusks? What type are they?
My head's saying birds. I think that's wrong, though.
I mean, that's not a type.
Oh, Flunderees.
Oh, there's another one.
Yeah.
That's another archetype.
Another archetype.
What type is Lyrilusk?
No idea.
You just said it.
Dragon?
No.
Winged beast?
Yes.
Okay.
You were close. There's no bird type. There's only winged beast.
No, I was thinking about Flunderees, little bird dudes.
Yeah, they're winged
Are
beast.
they winged beasts? Okay.
Mhm.
That's sad. They're just little birds.
Well, that's what a bird is. It's a winged beast.
No, it's not. There's nothing beastly about it.
Anyway,
A dragon's a winged beast.
Is there any?
But they don't... Dragons aren't under the winged beast category.
Are there any specific cards you remember? I know there's one.
I'm not gonna say it now.
What?
Because you'll win.
I'll win?
Yeah,
Because I know the only card you'll know.
no, there's Blue Eyes White Dragon.
That's one. Iconic from the show.
There's, Lord of D.
That's one. Mhm. There you go.
Is the other one called Flute of D? What's it called? Flute of
Dragon
Flute
Summoning,
of
I think
Dragon
is what it's
Summoning?
called.
I probably just called it Flute of D.
That makes sense. That might be what the skill is called. I don't remember.
There is Dark Magician.
Mm-hmm.
Dark Magician Girl.
Yep. I see you remember the show.
I don't think I saw that part in the show.
Interesting.
I'm trying to remember other
I wonder where you're picking all this up. It might just be from broad culture because stuff
names.
from the original show gets around.
Oh, there's the guy who's all the limbs in the head. Was it No, what is it called? I know it. From the show.
Uh-huh. I know exactly who you're talking about.
I know you know exactly who I'm talking about. My head says Zodiac, but that seems wrong.
That's not correct.
What is it?
Exodia.
Exodia. I got so close!
Exodia, the forbidden one.
That's just Zodiac with an X in front of it.
Is there any terms that you remember? Like lingo I use?
Oh my gosh. There's so much lingo you use.
Mm-hmm.
But now that you're putting me on the spot, my head's
That's why you
blank.
weren't allowed to review this PowerPoint.
You say archetype a lot.
That's true. That's the
you say
lingo.
format so much, and I hate it.
That's
I
some
don't
lingo.
know what it means. And if I say that I don't know what it means, if I say I don't know what you're talking about, you're like, you go on an hour-long lecture that I have to listen to.
Well.
You say goat all the time. Goat format.
Mm-hmm.
I can't think of any more lingo right now.
Well,
Errata.
a perfect transition to the next slide. Am I bad at talking about Yu-Gi-Oh? So, to bring this in, I will try to talk to you about something, and I have noticed, after having some criticism from you, was, so you listened to an episode of the podcast, and one of the things you noticed is that I was talking to the people who actually knew what I was talking about.
Yeah.
Basically the same as how I talked to you about it.
Oh yeah, I forgot about this.
And you were making fun of me for being bad at dumbing it down.
Yeah.
Speaking in a way that a normal person can understand.
Yeah.
And what I realized is, what I do is I start talking like I'm talking to someone who knows what they're talking about. And then whenever you get hung up or confused by something, I just explain that thing and then I carry on. I assume that if I say a term you don't understand, you make a weird face, I explain what that term means. I'm good. I taught you what the term means. When that is not true, because you will not remember what that term means, and even if I explain it to you, you will let me pass on the most basic understanding of what that term means. So if I explain the term, you're not going to be like, I didn't understand the explanation. You're going to be like, just keep going, so that'll shut up.
Yeah, pretty much.
And what it means is that, by the end of it, I feel like I've explained every piece of it.
Yeah.
So the whole thing should make sense.
Mm-hmm.
But in fact, I have explained all the pieces so poorly, you don't understand anything at all about what I'm saying. You think this is true?
Yes.
You agree with this conclusion?
100%.
Yeah, so apparently I'm bad at explaining.
Yes, I did tell you that
Mm-hmm.
after listening to your first couple of episodes of the podcast.
Yeah.
And I'm like, wow, he really doesn't dumb anything down for me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's because I don't think that words are that confusing. But you beg to differ.
But they're words you use literally every single day.
Sure.
No, I mean, you would if you talk to yourself every single
If
day.
I talk to myself every single day. If I recorded an episode every day.
Yes.
But
They're words, because you like watching
the
the Yu-Gi-Oh! YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
And they're using those words. But I've
That's
never
true.
willingly watched a Yu-Gi-Oh! YouTube video in my life.
Mhm.
And I will continue to not do that. So,
Understandably.
I feel like these are words you hear all the time.
It's
And
also
you say all the time.
it's not just Yu-Gi-Oh! A lot of these are just gaming terms,
I'm not a gamer.
which I realize you are not a gamer. But it's not like it's completely isolated to this one niche group of people. A lot of people use a lot of these words, like format. Also, depending on the sport.
Okay, but look, there's no, like, new Animal Crossing format, even though there is. We don't describe it as that.
You don't say format.
Yeah, we don't say format.
Yeah. You would refer to something more specific.
There's a new trend. We say, oh, well, like, there's this new trend going around or whatever.
Or you'd say after the patch.
Oh, yeah,
After the
after
update.
2.0 dropped.
Yeah. But for us, it's format. I think the reason they use format is because, in a sense, it's broader.
But you've also talked about how format for Yu-Gi-Oh! Is so niche, because you can have a format that only lasted like 1 week or whatever.
Oh, yeah. Yes, the famous one
I
being...
feel like for every other game, that's not the case.
I mean, in trading card games, it's pretty common. Especially if the difference is innovation.
Mm-hmm.
Because there are some formats that the only difference, and these are really hard to recreate, because once knowledge is known, it cannot be forgotten.
Mm-hmm.
Formats that existed because people did not understand something go away really quickly sometimes. There might be some deck that just came out that people haven't figured out how to work quite yet. And so for that first format, that first day that it's out, there are very few people playing that deck, and it doesn't do very well. But then maybe like a day or two after that, people figured out how to make it work, and suddenly it's really, really good. That format, those few days where it wasn't good but it was out, that moment, you can't really recapture it.
But why does it get a name, though?
Well, because sometimes they're good.
Okay.
All the formats have names now for bookkeeping, because there's like Yu-Gi-Oh! Historians. There are people who pride themselves on knowing the history.
I was about to say, who are these bookkeepers? Who are these people?
I don't know. I was surprised.
Why are you watching them on YouTube?
I'm not. These are the people who don't have YouTube channels. They're just on the fandom. They go into the fandom and they type all this out.
Oh, they're
those people.
They're the Yu-Gi-Oh! Wikipedia guys.
And on Reddit. Mm-hmm. That's the sort of people I'm talking about right now. And they are determined to give every format a name. Just for completeness. But the first formats are just named for the sake of they were good enough to want to revisit. Like GOAT format. GOAT literally meaning greatest of all time. That's why one of the two reasons people called it GOAT format.
When did that come out?
GOAT format?
Yeah.
I think that was 2008.
Okay.
I'm not certain though.
So way before we started dating.
Oh yeah, way before.
Long time.
Way before I started playing.
Yeah.
That was a long time ago.
We were probably watching the show.
Yeah. Well, it's one of the. It's weird to say it was one of the first formats because it started in 2001. Yu-Gi-Oh! Did.
And now I'm not sure if I equated Yu-Gi-Oh! To Pokemon because it was a card game. I think I might have equated Yu-Gi-Oh! To Pokemon because the Just for Kids logo popped up on the front of both of those shows.
Interesting. I figured you just equate them because they were both like Saturday morning cartoons.
But I didn't watch Pokemon on TV. Mm-hmm. We had VHSs with the Pokemon episodes on them.
Yeah. Oh, maybe that's interesting.
So
you had a very different experience.
I had access to Pokemon that I did not have to Yu-Gi-Oh! But I think I put them together as because the Just for Kids logo would pop up at the beginning.
That's
for
funny.
both the shows or at the end. I can't remember.
That means you probably got I think we all got the censored version where in Yu-Gi-Oh! The funny thing that they do for the censored is that they remove the guns and just have people aggressively point.
There's guns?
Oh yeah. In the original, there are guns. In the Japanese version, there people have guns. Like there's a character named Bandit Keith who wears an America bandana and who is a bandit and who has very commonly uses a gun. And every now and again they're like security guards and they'll have guns. But when they brought it over to America, they removed the guns. So people are just pointing aggressively. So it's like security, take them out, and the two security guards walk up and they're doing that. They're pointing. They're pointing at the guy to escort them out.
That's so dumb.
And it's like, wow, those security guards got a really powerful point.
Yeah.
It
was Just for Kids that did that, right?
Yeah, 4Kids Entertainment, yeah.
Oh yeah, that one. I don't know. But I remember the Pokemon and they had the rice balls.
Yes, the jelly donut.
Oh my gosh, I wanted to eat those so bad because I thought it was a jelly donut.
That's really funny.
I thought it was like powdered or something. I'm like, why is it white? I don't know. They're like, it's a jelly donut. And I'm like, that is the most magical magical looking jelly donut I've ever seen in my life. And I really want to try it. I thought they were sweet. And I have no idea when I figured out that they were rice balls.
That's funny. I think I've heard that from
It was probably when somebody said, Pokemon's an anime, right? And I'm like, no, it's not. It's a cartoon. And they're like, no, You poor child. It's an anime. I'm
This
like,
is-
I'll never watch anime.
This was produced in Japan. Anyway, next slide. Here we go. Here's what you wanted to talk about.
Oh, look at
So-
my list.
Pros, here we have DB, or Dueling Book, the free online manual simulator that a lot of people use, generally considered the most competitive. And then Duel Links. We have talked at length about that already. Cons,
You mean so you mean basically the pros are the ability to play the game online
for free, yes.
for free. That is
Theoretically for
a
Duel
big
Links.
pro. That was why it was so hard, especially for me to get into it at first, because there was no way for me to learn without the physical cards in hand.
Yeah,
And I wasn't about to spend money on cardboard.
yeah.
Yeah. And at that time, there was only Dueling Book, I think.
When you first started, maybe I don't remember when Duel Links came out, but
Well, you pretended it didn't exist.
That's
so
true.
basically, it didn't exist for
that's
me.
true. That's true. And your primary con with the game is that it's too expensive.
Yeah, is that it costs money for paper.
Yeah. Shiny sometimes.
I do like the shiny paper. I like it a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
And
pretty
then-
much the physical cards. Oh, well, and then if you're really into it, you gotta get the cards. But then you also have to buy card sleeves. If you're really into it, you go to your local tournaments and you pay a fee to play, and then if you manage to win, you can get some store credit.
Yeah.
Like, wow, so worth it.
Well, nowadays, I don't really compete very much. I just play against my friends, which doesn't cost anything except for the cards. Now, that's a big except right there, except for the cards. The cards are still expensive. But here I have the last one, the most recent introduction, Master Duel.
The one you were waiting for
Mhm.
so long.
Yes, I was very excited.
You were so excited.
And it's got its problems, but it's still definitely a huge improvement.
You had that whole day set aside when Master Duel came out. You're like,
Yep.
I'm sorry, babe. Master Duel came out today.
I have priorities.
Uh-huh. You actually won a few local tournaments before, right?
Yeah.
Like once.
Yes, back during TOS format.
I saw
million
that
years
one
ago.
time I stopped by your local card shop and you were dueling somebody.
Mhm.
You used to go up there every single Saturday.
I did, yeah.
And then
Back in
we
the
started
day.
dating.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry.
We started dating, I got a job, a lot of stuff happened that made that less practical.
Yeah.
But it was nice because I did good in the beginning. I did terrible and I never won. But as time went on, I got better, and when TOS format started and I got my Salamangreat deck, I started winning frequently enough to where I basically didn't have to pay for tournaments anymore
Hmm.
because the credit that I won was enough to pay for my entry.
Oh, yeah.
That was a good time.
I remember with the physical cards, we went and you were broke because you didn't have any money. I think one of the first years you were dating, you asked for Yu-Gi-Oh cards for Christmas.
Mhm.
And I bought you 3, structure decks?
Yeah, that was the Salamangreat
That was
structure deck.
Salamangreat. I helped you buy that
Yes, you got them for me as a gift for Christmas. I much appreciated.
from that website. And later you were like, you didn't have like a bank account, I think. So you couldn't order things online yourself. I think you asked me once, you said, you asked me if I'd be your Yu-Gi-Oh card dealer. And I was like, what?
My shameful youth.
Yeah, you asked me if I would be your card dealer, and I'm like, what on earth are you talking about? Why don't you just buy it yourself? And you said you didn't think your mom would let you. And I was like, no, I really
feel like
don't want to be a part of that.
When you talk about this, which you love doing,
I haven't brought
you,
this up in 3 years at least.
you haven't talked to a new person in 3 years. When you
Rude.
bring this up, what you love doing. It feels like when people talk about when you were a child and you rubbed poop over the walls. To me, I am so embarrassed
Sorry,
by
man.
younger Buck who, because my parents didn't care. I found out
That you could have just
it was my money.
bought it.
They
Yeah.
didn't care. I didn't want to inconvenience them by asking them.
I felt like we were pretty new in our relationship, and I thought, I don't want to go behind your mom's back. I want them to like me.
Yeah.
And you had a friend who already helped you get the cards online anyway, so I'm
Mhm.
like, just keep asking him to do it.
Yeah.
I don't want to be a part of this nonsense.
Conclusion, I was young and dumb.
And you could have just bought it.
I didn't have a bank account, you're right.
It probably saved you from buying a lot of Yu-Gi-Oh cards.
I don't think so. I don't think I would have.
The fear that you could not.
It was the money.
Yeah.
I didn't have a lot of money back then, so I wouldn't have been able to spend much on Yu-Gi-Oh cards anyway. I did have a really foolish purchase using my cash money of a plastic trombone that turned out terribly. So that was a much worse financial decision than any amount of money I spent on Yu-Gi-Oh cards, probably to date.
Sorry, my mom texted me.
Oh my gosh, so unprofessional.
So unprofessional.
Well, while you're doing that, I will move to the next one, which is apparently you listened to episode 5.5.
Yes.
Which was a buffer episode, in which I talk about marketing and product design and kind of direction of certain things for the company of Konami I wanted them to do. And afterwards you said, you have never talked to me about any of this, Buck. Why have you not mentioned any of this to me? This is way more interesting than all the boring card game stuff you try to talk about.
Sorry.
So, let's get into it. Let's talk about, and here I think what interested you the most was specifically about the new direction that the shows could take on Netflix, a new version of the cartoon and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah, you were talking about how they should make a Yu-Gi-Oh anime. A different kind? I can't remember exactly what you were saying in that episode, but that you were saying you would watch a Yu-Gi-Oh anime. And I'd be like, yeah, I guess I watched that too. But my idea for the anime was sort of like, every episode is just like a standalone episode about like an archetype or the backstory behind these cards or these card arts and such.
So your idea was to do for lack of a better term, a love, death, and robot style. Each episode is its own contained story, and maybe some of them are two-parters for each individual theme getting their lore adapted into an episode, which kind of reflects how Master Duel does their story modes.
Mm-hmm.
Master Duel story modes are kind of like that, and people love that. So it would kind of be just boosting the production on that and releasing it as some sort of show. Specifically, I want to talk about the first thing I want to talk about. Here we have Dual Terminal. I'm sure I've talked to you about this before, but you probably don't remember any of it.
Yeah, you might have to go over that again.
That's why it's here. So, Dual Terminal, I'd like to draw your attention first to the YouTube videos that I have here. We have a 303,000 view video by Mega Capital G, where he just reads the lore with his own little spin on some of the details.
Okay, what if he reads the lore? Where is he reading the lore?
Glad you asked. So this is why... Load. Don't mind that pop-up. Here is the Yu-Gi-Oh! Fandom for Dual Terminal Master Guide card storyline. And as you can see, just by this table of contents...
So there's just a website with lore.
Well, this is the fandom.
Okay.
And notice how I keep scrolling. And the table of contents is still going.
Yeah. So wait, is this lore or Yu-Gi-Oh fan fiction?
So the worms appear, blah, blah, blah. You can see we've got text, specific card arts they're referencing, little blurbs about each card art and what they were doing in this, whatever. And what this was specifically. Don't mind me scrolling all over the place. Oh my gosh.
What this was specifically was what?
Here we go. This is where I wanted to be. Boop. Back to this link. Where the Dual Terminal storyline, also known as the Hidden Arsenal storyline, is a large meta plot present within the Yu-Gi-Oh card game. The meta plot encompasses cards with many different card series and ties them together into a single cohesive storyline. This was released in the Yu-Gi-Oh arcade game and subsequently released in the card packs.
So Dual Terminal is an arcade game?
Yes, there's an actual arcade game. So if you actually search Dual Terminal on YouTube, the first thing that comes up is the arcade game.
Where do you find this arcade game?
In Japan, you can find it in arcades. Sometimes at Yu-Gi-Oh events, they'll have one. They'll have one that goes to the event that they bring to the event. What most people actually use it for is if you put the money in, you can just get a card from it.
Oh. It's just a vending machine?
Basically. There is a game that you can play. But you can just skip playing the game to get the card. But they later, and I believe in the game, there's some hints to the story of them. But because this was a higher budget thing than just a normal set, it's part of this arcade game. It's like this bigger thing. A lot more effort went to the story of it, I believe.
Okay.
And eventually, they released the Master Guide, a series of official books providing the most authoritative information on the exact happenings and details of the storyline.
Is it in Japanese?
Yes.
Oh,
never been translated officially. But many people have translated it.
Is that why
into English?
Translated versions of these books can be found on Wikipedia?
And that's what this is. This is a combination of all the official books translated into English.
Okay.
That's basically what this is. It's been summarized and contextualized a bit, rather than being direct translation, but all the core information in this is from those official books that have been translated into English unofficially. So that's the first thing, is that already exists.
Okay.
People already love it.
So you're saying they can make anime based off of
just this.
Dual Terminal?
Just Dual Terminal, where they've released books that people loved. And
okay, the books.
Literally just a dude, and book in quotes. Think of it like magazine blurbs.
Okay.
In a sequence of chronological order, basically. It's not like a real book. But this guy, Mega Capital G, just reading it. Literally just reading it. This is part 1 of however many parts. 303k views. And then this one over here.
So he's a G.
This one over here, Yu-Gi-Mation, where they animated it. And when I say animate, if it'll let me play the video.
You mean roughly animate?
I mean roughly animate. No flack to them. For YouTube animation, it's good. But it's definitely no animation that you'd expect to see anywhere else, right?
Did you even put the link in there?
Oh, I did. But if I tap forward, it'll probably just play it. Oh, never mind then. Oh well, we'll never get to watch it. It's animated, but it's not super animated.
Okay.
And that has 123k views. There's an audience here already that are even these very low effort, low quality renditions of it have an audience. So imagine if they actually went through the effort of fully making it and did a good job. We know that they already have a history with Netflix Konami, because Castlevania is a Konami property. And then they gave that, or however deal was made, that Netflix produced that show, Castlevania. That was wildly popular.
Are there any RPG Yu-Gi-Oh games?
Like through the lore? No. Everything has been about the show and about the people playing the game.
Well, is there even one like that?
Or what do you mean by roleplay game?
I don't know, where you have a little guy. You have a little guy who runs around and duels people.
Yes.
Like Pokemon.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, those exist. They are less common.
Mm-hmm. Are they official?
I believe there's a couple that are official.
Okay.
The Rush Duel, the most recent version of Yu-Gi-Oh! That exists, they have one that you can actually get on the Switch. That is definitely an RPG style. Anyway, and then...
Is Castlevania RPG style? I've never played it. I've never even
No, it's like it's an old game. They haven't made a new Castlevania forever.
Little, like, story... They have the little guy's head with the scroll of words.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Me neither. I'd continue.
Castlevania is an old game that's like just left to right movement, platformer, fight monsters.
I think
pixel art.
I think it's occurring to me more now. Yes.
But that show was popular enough, people started buying those old games, and that's not making Konami any money. But with Yu-Gi-Oh, people would actually buy cards. Anyway, here's another example of lore in cards. This one is not explicit in any way, right? As summarized by this deleted Reddit poster, so I can't credit the person because they deleted their account. But a lot of Duel Monsters lore, especially non-Duel Terminal lore, that's why I started with the Duel Terminal, because everyone mentions it when they talk about lore, is not explicitly stated, so it can be extremely conjectural, but some of the art is relatively unambiguous. So here we have the story of Sangan, who I mentioned earlier. So
here's the girl who taught me how to play Duel Links.
She's kind of a fan favorite character. So she is in this tour bus to the underworld. She is the tour guide to the underworld. She has her own card. That's her from a different perspective. And as you can see on this little tour bus, I don't know if you can quite see, but Sangan is on this tour bus.
There's a devil bus driver.
Yeah. Well, it's to the underworld.
Okay, who is Sangan? What's he look like?
He's this guy.
Oh, that guy? Is that guy the same guy?
That's it. It's the same. All of this. It's all the same guy.
He looks like a bad Kuribo.
Kinda.
Okay, continue. Sorry.
So he's on this little bus, and then mistake, you can see the tour bus leaving, and he gets onto a different bus.
Uh-oh.
And on that bus, so it's named Mistake, and this one is Tour Bus to the Forbidden Realms.
So he didn't go to the underworld?
So instead of going to the underworld, he's going to the Forbidden Realms. And the Forbidden Realms is the ban list.
Oh.
All of these cards shown here are banned.
That's funny.
So that's Cyberstein, he's a banned card. That's Magical Scientist, he's banned. This is Tribe Infecting Virus. That was a banned card at the time. And Sangan actually got banned.
Oh, that's cute.
And then here we see Shared Ride. We can see in the background the art of Tour Bus to the Forbidden Realms. It seems he got in someone else's car.
Okay.
And again, this is two banned cards. Graceful Charity's banned. That's what this is. And Delinquent Duo is banned.
Oh, I thought you were going to say Graceful Charity's no longer banned.
No, it's banned.
Dang it.
These are both banned. As you can see, they get caught by the police.
Mistaken arrest.
And he gets arrested.
Poor bud.
And he ends up in prison. And then here we have Witch of the Black Forest, who is also banned with him. They were banned about the same time.
Yeah, this could be a whole episode.
But then they actually got unbanned, which is why it's mistaken arrest. Eventually they came off.
Okay.
This was made long after this real life saga of Sangan getting banned and then taken off the ban list happened. But this is kind of a in-lore retelling of Sangan's trip to the ban list and back.
Mm-hmm. It's cute.
Through these card arts. And one thing to note about Yu-Gi-Oh cards is a lot of them just have card arts in them. Like, for instance, the thing in the background of Tour Bus to the Underworld is Skullbone Tower. That is a Yu-Gi-Oh card.
Not surprised.
Even just the background art. And, of course, all these other things, it's just other banned cards. I think the police officers and stuff aren't Yu-Gi-Oh cards, but...
Did you,
Oh, the guy in Mistake, he's called Tardy Orc.
So he's late.
Because he's running late.
That's funny. Did you make a list of any other archetypes you'd want to see as an episode?
Well, I think I have not here now. But anything that's a solo mode, the reason they made them a solo mode is because people liked them.
Are we talking about Master Duel?
Yes.
Okay.
So all of those are good candidates, basically.
I don't know any of those though.
No. I could bring up the list, I suppose, but
well, I can tell you the one I want to know.
Mm-hmm.
Was it Sue Ship?
Sue Ship.
The Sushi Ship. And
Yes.
I want Popcorn's backstory.
Popcorn.
Yeah.
I don't know what his backstory would be, but I look forward to it. I really don't know what they could possibly do with Popcorn.
What it's like there would be serious episodes because a lot of the card arts are so cool.
Yeah.
And then there'd be comedy episodes. Popcorn would have to be a comedy probably, but it'd be funny if it was serious.
There are some that definitely lend themselves to a not serious take.
It could be like most of the episodes are here's a dramatic one with these cool card arts.
Mm-hmm.
And then like the last episode, the sort of finale, kind of has one that has more to do with like the show or something. Like
yes,
it could
I
be
can.
Blue Eyes or whatever.
I can definitely walk you through how that sort of thing could work just based off the solo modes. Because some of them are a lot more goofy, like the Sue Ships.
Mm-hmm.
They are a lot more goofy.
And there's the one. Is Popcorn part of the circus? What's that?
The circus?
Okay, there's like the radish pony, and then.
Oh no, that's the Performer Pals. No, he is. I don't think he
Pals.
is part of those.
But Performer Pals could be an episode.
So when we're talking about stuff with solo modes, one of them is the Absolute Monarch. It's the Monarchs strategy. Who they are all. That's just a theme. The Monarchs. It's a very old theme. A lot of people like that theme. They had a structure deck that I bought. In fact, if we skip ahead a little bit.
Oh my gosh, you're tempting me with all this cuteness.
To here, we can see that one of these, the top left art, is my Monarchs poster.
Are you pointing to it? Show me. Put your finger.
Top
okay.
left art.
Got it. You know I don't know left from right.
Sorry. Anyway, let me skip past all this again.
Oh, so cute.
So Monarchs, people love Monarchs. Monarchs was a structure deck. Then we've got the Elemental Lords. I don't know why that one's in there, to be honest. Ruin and Demise.
That'd be cool.
That's a popular theme that people really like. The Mystery of the Megalith. There's a lot of stories in here.
Okay,
and
but
some of them are.
These would all be dramatic episodes.
Then we've got these guys, the Gears of Justice Dispatch, the Geargia. They are literally robots with like googly eyes.
They're so cute.
Like, obviously that's going to be a not very serious story that gets told about them. What's another? Danger. The Danger Files.
Oh, I know.
Is like a cryptid show.
Like the last episode should be like a crossover episode. Since they have like, crossover cards and such.
Mm-hmm.
It's just other archetypes meeting each other.
Well, that's Dual Terminal.
Mm-hmm.
What Dual Terminal, that actual story is about all these archetypes interacting with each other.
I thought you were saying all these archetypes are actually in the same world.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, the world of Dual Terminal.
I'm glad I did get that right.
The world of Dual Terminal is a world.
It's like, what?
And there are a bunch of different archetypes that all live in it, a bunch of different groups of monsters.
My favorite book series, which is the book series that caused us to start dating.
Oh,
Percy Jackson
Yes.
and the Olympians. And how all of those
Cause us to
his
start
books
dating is a
connect.
little bit of a.
It was okay, listeners. Our very first conversation
It's a little bit
that
of a
we
stretch.
both remember
Yes,
was about
the books.
the books, Percy Jackson and the Olympians.
Anyway, but the the Danger Show episode is just about
Danger, Jackrabbit.
these researchers looking for them, and maybe it could be more serious, but I think it'd be pretty comical because most of the card arts for the Dangers are very comical.
That's a cute card.
The
Green
Blunder
Rabbit.
Patrol, they're pirates,
That's cute.
and they're in a
I
cutie art style.
would watch a show about those.
Uh-huh.
Well, not a show. I'd watch an episode.
And then we've got the
That looks like a drag queen ghost.
the Ghost Strikes. Now this one's a little more serious looking, but most of them are very cartoony.
We should have put these in the slides.
They're in a different.
You have a different PowerPoint?
There are they are in the card arts section.
Oh, okay.
We will get to them, and I will bring it back up then.
All of these?
No, not all of these. But among these, so we have all these. Some of them are serious, some of them are not as serious. But
There's that archetype that we also talked about would be a good one that you really like. It's got the Wizard of Oz lightsabers.
Cosmo. Now that
Cosmo.
gets into a little bit of
Yeah, we
legal,
definitely couldn't legally do that one.
where it gets a little weird. I don't know how I'm not finding the solo mode.
Whoever owns Wizard of Oz would strike you, and then Disney would definitely not let that go. Would not let that slide.
Yes, they would both probably get in your way.
Which means Disney Plus needs to make the Yu-Gi-Oh!
Most of the solo modes
anime.
are short. They are only this takes way too long to load for me to show you. They are like this long, where it's 2 little tutorial sections, a practice, a duel, and then 2 extra duels. That's it. But there are also some of them, if I can find any of them. I don't know why I'm struggling so much to find the longer ones. But some of them are like twice as long. And that could be like our 2-parter episodes. No, that's the same.
Oh, yeah.
Whatever.
We did say we would allow 2-parter episodes.
But it's also a lot more serious. Oh, Legend of the Star Heroes. See, Legend of the Star Heroes has 3 different tabs to it already.
Mm-hmm.
And each of those tabs are longer
Than just a single...
than the others.
Yeah.
So already that's longer. I'll go ahead and take you to the third one. I think it's the longest. Sorry to our audience. Even though this was the visual episode, you don't get to see any of this.
Yeah.
But see how much longer? There's so much more to it.
I just also want to say, as you have Master Duel pulled up and you're showing me all of the...
Mm-hmm.
What are they called? Solo modes and stuff. My favorite thing about Master Duel is that when he's playing, I can see if he's winning or not based off of how cracked
Yeah.
the
field is.
The field is.
Yes.
So I'm like, oh, you must be losing because your field's really cracked.
They did a good job visually telling things, storytelling there.
And the little characters on the sides. I love those.
Yes, the
If
mascots are very cute.
Start playing Master Duel, it would just be so I could get the little mascots.
Which would be fair.
And I would spend all my money on
could,
getting the little mascots instead of good cards.
Uh-huh. Well, they're not expensive, really. I mean, it's not bad. But unfortunately, some of the cute mascots you have to get through the battle pass.
You will help me.
It's just my account. Anyway, with that, I think we're at a natural break point.
Okay.
So I'm going to call break. And we'll come back to do the card art section.
What are we doing on this break?
I'm going to go to the bathroom.
Oh, dang it.
So, goodbye for now.